And we want to go back for a moment to the video posted by Congressman Chris Deluzio and the president's response. That includes the congressman's response.
He is now joining us live this morning by phone here on KDKA+. Congressman, good morning. And we can just jump into it and ask you right off the bat, what was your reaction to the president's reaction to that video?
Well, good morning, everybody. And, I want to be clear, the president's reaction was to call for my hanging and death. It's a dark and sad day in America when the president resorts to calling for the murder and political assassination of his political rivals. And I think our country is ready and willing, and we're seeing the evidence of people rejecting this, of Democrats and so many others saying we've had enough. And I think it's a dark day, and I really encourage all patriots, I use that word on purpose, to condemn this. Whatever your political party, we cannot in this country resort to calling for the death and assassination of people we disagree with.
Congressman, obviously you are ex-military, you are a veteran, you understand the significance of orders that come down from above. What have you seen this president do that you consider to be the illegal orders that would prompt you to call on active military personnel not to follow those orders?
Well, I didn't say that there's any orders right now that anyone should not follow. What I did was remind everyone and restate a basic principle that you learn, whether it's in boot camp or officer candidate school, that you are required to follow lawful orders from your lieutenant up to the president, and that no member of the military is ever required to follow illegal ones. And we've seen this president issue and talk about doing things that are illegal. In his first term, and Secretary of Defense Mark Esper talked about the fact that the president was pointing toward him and then Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff to shoot civilians in the legs. Just yesterday, a court found that the deployment of National Guard troops in Washington, D.C. was unlawful. There has been plenty of reporting of folks in the military and otherwise, and there were veterans on Capitol Hill this week expressing deep alarm for whether they might be placed in situations that could pose illegality, unlawfulness. And the time to train is not when you're in a crisis, it's before, which is why it's important to restate the basic principle that you have to obey lawful orders and that no service member is ever required to follow illegal ones.
Isn't there the potential, Congressman, of creating some confusion in the ranks if individual military members then use their own judgment to determine something's an illegal order?
I think we have the best and brightest and the sharpest military fighting force in the history of the planet. I have great faith in our troops. I have great faith in our commanders who have the benefit of JAGs or military lawyers on their staff to navigate these issues. And again, there's been plenty of reporting of deep uncertainty around the legality of certain actions of this administration. Our senior commanders should navigate through those issues relying on counsel. But I have to tell you, folks, the best evidence that I can have of this president's unwillingness to follow the rule of law and the Constitution is that his response to us pointing out a basic fact about the Constitution is to call for my death. That tells me he has such little regard for the Constitution. And he is the person, more than anyone else, who could bring the temperature down in this country. He could rise to the moment to put a cooler on this political violence, and yet he amps it up and calls for my death and others. It's just so reckless and dark. I have to expect, and I've been so pleased to see Democrats, Republicans, and so many others finally saying we've had enough to condemn these calls for violence.
Congressman Deluzio, we thank you so much for joining us this morning and responding in that way.
Much more to come, and we will be back in just a moment.